All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We are getting all the folks rolled in. Welcome to today's Critical Conversations webinar. My name is Carlos Garcia. I'm excited to host you today. Let's, as we're waiting for folks to circle in here, let's type in the chat. Would love to learn more about where's everyone coming from. So go ahead and type in the chat. Where are you joining us from? Maybe a little bit about yourself. What industry do you work in? Good afternoon, John, Beth, Renee from Washington. We got Long Island, New York. We got Kansas City in the house. We got Clayton, Colorado Springs. Wow, we've got England across the pond. We got Seattle, folks from real estate, Denver, Bradenton, Miami. Woo! I'm in South Florida, Miami, so represent. Hi, Olga. Good to see you. Carissa, welcome. Thanks for joining. Nick, Adam, Robin, Ines, Abby, Daniel, thank you all for joining. Well, without further ado, let me kick this off. My name is Carlos Garcia, and I'm an Exactly What to Say certified guide. And today I'm going to take you on a journey to talk a little bit about our Critical Conversations webinar, which is how to sell on value and not price. And I'm excited about this topic because these last 2 years, I became recently an entrepreneur. I've been in the banking and finance industry for over 15 years, has been quite a journey for me. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about my journey and share a few lessons, not only in general from my journey, but just in the journey of transitioning our mindset from price-focused to value-focused conversations with our customers. So let's get started. So a little bit more about me. As I mentioned, I'm a Exactly What to Say certified guide. I am also the founder of Exceed Sales. It's a sales training and coaching company. And I'm focused on coaching financial professionals in the accounting and banking space, teaching them the skills so that they can be more value focused in their client conversations, and also leveraging technology so they can optimize their workflows and drive more sales with their customers. One of my specialties is I help accounting professionals transform their firms by using what's called a value pricing model. However, the concept of transitioning to value is universal and it's applicable to all industries. And so that's what we'll learn about today. I want to go over what are some ways for us to maximize our time together. The first thing I would say, I'm sure we've got a plethora of experience on this webinar today. And many of you have a tremendous amount of skill set already around how to have value conversations. But it definitely helps to always wear your beginner's hat, right? Think about if you were a rookie and you're learning this for the first time, put yourself into that mindset, and I guarantee you that you'll get some tremendous value out of some of the things that we'll cover today. The second thing, you've already accomplished this. I'm already so excited. We had tremendous amount of participation in the chat already. There are going to be some things that are probably going to inspire you to like share your story or share your reaction to some of the things you learn. Feel free to add some comments in the chat. I'll be monitoring it. I also have a couple of friends on the line here, a few other Exactly What to Say certified guides that might help and chime in because they have a ton of value and experience and wisdom to share as well. Ask questions. If there's something that comes up that, might want to be more pertinent towards you, your industry, your situation, feel free to add it in the chat and we'll try to address that if we can. If not, I'll make sure to follow up after the webinar to help you address any circumstances that might be more applicable to your unique situation. And the last thing is just my challenge to you is at least implement one thing that you learned from today. And if you can do that, I'm very encouraged that some of the stuff and the concepts that you get from here are going to give you some permanent results and improvement in how you want to get better in your practice. So before we talk about what we're going to learn today, I want to tell you a little story. Picture that you see here is a picture of me. In the middle is my brother. I call him my value spirit guide, also a mentor of mine. And I privilege myself to call him my partner in now that we do some work together. And on the left is my sister, Maria. We've always been professionals and we love business and we've always loved serving customers. And Hector and I, when we first started our careers, we started in retail sales together. We always worked together on things. However, over time, we worked in the bank together, we worked in retail sales together, but at one period, Hector decided to go a different route. He became an accountant. And in his career trajectory, he also became an influencer accountant and a thought leader in the community. And one of the topics that he is really, really well versed in is in value pricing for accountants. In the bank, I learned a lot of skills of how to demonstrate my value. However, I did have a tremendous, brand supporting me, so which gave me a lot of confidence in being able to present my products, my services, and the benefits to the customer. However, 2 years ago, I decided to quit the bank and become my own boss. In that journey, my value spirit guide, Hector, was very helpful because I told him, hey, I want to start a training company. And he's like, okay, well, what product do you want to sell? I go, well, I want to sell sales training. Okay, well, create a product. I was like, okay. So I had to go back and create my first PowerPoint presentation, which I spent months building before I come back to him and say, all right, I've got my product. He reviews it and he says, all right, looks good. Now go find a customer. I'm like, oh gosh, okay, fine. Now I got to go find a customer. So I found a potential customer, and now they say, hey, I'm interested in you providing me with a training. So there lies this situation where it's like, all right, what price am I going to offer them? What's the price that I'm going to charge for this training? And it was in this moment where I learned what was the difference between price and value. Because internally, I wasn't counting on all of the years of experience and all of the potential results that I could provide to this potential customer. What I was counting on more is I want to try to get the sale, right? I don't have a company that backs me. It's all me and me that they rely on. So I was scared to price it at a specific number that might intimidate the customer because I wasn't recognizing the value of the work that I had put in, the months that I had put in behind that presentation. And when I got back to Hector, I said, I found the customer, and he said, what price do you want to charge? I'll be honest with you, in my head, it was a very, very low number. It's almost embarrassing to share. And he came back to me and said, you should charge this number instead, which was 5 times more. To which I responded, oh my God, that's so much. See, what was happening at that moment is I wasn't really thinking about the value that I was creating as a result of training this team how to become better salespeople. I wasn't really in that mindset. And so a couple of lessons that I learned, first of all, I did end up going by the recommended price that he told me to offer, even though I was scared to offer it. He gave me some guidance on what language to use so that the customer can see the value of the investment that they would make in training their team so that they can get better results. And to tell you the truth, it took a little bit of time. I was nervous. I thought I lost the deal. About a week later, the customer accepted the engagement. We were able to execute it, and my confidence went through the roof. So a couple of lessons that I learned, right? The one thing I want to share is that not everything has to be calculated based on the hours that you put in. What you want to focus on is the outcomes that you're going to create. When you think about delivering value, assign that value towards the results that you're going to create for your customers. And that is going to allow your customer to shift their mindset to not focus so much on price, rather focus on the outcomes that you're creating for them. The second thing is internally, I had to do some soul searching and recognize my own value. I had 15 years of training experience that I put my soul and heart into these training and this content that I shared for an entire team that's going to help them significantly change the results that they would get. And those results would give them a bunch of return on that and the investment of the training that they would have. And so learn how to communicate that using the right language. The third is always rely back on your evidence, on the evidence that you've done this before and you've done it well. You've served customers. They've raved about you. They've come back to you. They've referred people back to you. So if ever you embark on a journey where you are in the dilemma of knowing what your value is, just remember some of these lessons. And then the last thing is the return on investment. So whatever investment your customer is going to put in for whatever product, service you're going to provide to them, always think about what is the long-term return that they get out of it, whether it's financial, spiritual, emotional, mental, whatever that is being able to identify what it is and focus on it when you have that conversation. So let's talk about what we're going to learn about today. First, we're going to talk about the price versus value dilemma, understanding the crucial difference. Oftentimes, you're going to be faced in conversations where your customers are going to be very, very heavily focused on the price. They want to try to get the best price from you, or that's going to be the major objection as to why they won't move forward in doing business with you. And so we're going to talk about what language can you use so that you can uncover more value throughout the conversation and that the customer can change their mindset about what's the investment of that decision that they're going to make. We're going to also do an exercise, which is going to have a framework to help you communicate your value in different circumstances, especially in critical conversations, which is what this webinar is about having critical conversations. The third is one of my favorites, is simple swaps. There's certain words that we use in our language we may not be conscious of that could erode value. In essence, it could deter the ability to deliver value. And you can just subtle change in some of those words can actually build more value and allow your client to perceive that whatever product, solution, or service you offer is going to achieve the result, the outcome that they want. And then the investment that they make ends up being a fraction of the value that they get. And then lastly, we're going to talk about exactly what to ask so that you can create what I call is a value gap, right? Just like Phil likes to say, when we're asking really good, strategic, curious questions, we create a curiosity gap. And when you create a curiosity gap, that gap is filled with value. And then we're going to go over that as well. So let's get started. Here's where we're going to get the chat going. So if you are a fan of business leaders and thought leaders, who knows who said this? Price is what you pay. Value is what you get. Let's see what the chat gets to say here. For those who are big quote fans. Oh, Sherry got it right off the bat here. We got Warren Buffett, we got Benjamin Franklin. And so effectively, it is Warren Buffett, an American investor, philanthropist who has one of the greatest track records. And his business partner, who rests in peace, recently passed away, Charlie Munger, was also a brilliant investor in the world of stocks and finance. And I just really love this quote because, the perception of price, if we're focused on using language around price, then we are focused a lot on cost. It's usually more painful when you use the language of price. And value is more focused on results rather than in outcomes, rather than costs and expenses and the things that don't make us feel that good whenever we're making financial decisions, especially. So let's talk about some significant differences between price and value. First, with price, oftentimes both a seller or a expert professional or even a buyer, they interpret price as something that is circumvented around time and effort, also known as inputs. When we think about value, we're focusing our conversation more around the impact that that's going to have and the outcomes that that solution is going to create. So if we think about an example, right, and I'm going to use the accounting example, since we have a few accountants here, a lot of folks that are looking to get their bookkeeping done for the year, right? Typically, an accountant might think of, oh, this is going to take me 10 hours to complete. So easily, I'm just going to charge X amount per hour. Let's just say $100 an hour. So you do 10 times 100, that's going to be $1,000. If we were to be value focused, we can think about what is the problem that we're solving if we were to help our customers or small business owner, let's say, get their bookkeeping done for the year. Well, it could solve several problems that could create a whole lot more value for them, especially more than $1,000. So through asking tremendous more amount of questions. Rather than focusing on an hourly rate and how much you can charge, you could potentially uncover a lot more value and price the job and price the customer at a different rate that would still become a fraction of the ROI that you create, or the problem that you solve, or the solution that you create for them. Price is often seen as a tangible figure, where value is more perceived as holistic and an intangible benefit. So some of these things, you can't put a price tag on it. You know, having a peace of mind does not have a price tag. So let's think about, you know, if you're in the real estate industry, there might be some specific goals that your buyer might have that could have intangible benefits. I wonder, for my real estate professionals in the chat, what could be some specific holistic and intangible benefits that a home buyer would get from purchasing a home, let's say in a specific neighborhood or with the specific needs that they have. Let's see what the chat's got to say. We got a few real estate pros that could think of some examples. Becoming independent. I like that. Thanks, Casey. We got an optometrist, better clarity of vision when driving at night. Oh, that's huge, Nick. Thank you. Safety. Absolutely, Sherry. Creating the opportunity for shelter and building wealth, education, being able to negotiate on their behalf. A new chapter, wonderful chapter. What if they have the greatest schools in the state or in the country, right? So think about their kids and the opportunity for their kids to go to get a lot better education so they can become the future leaders of our community. So there's tremendous other examples that we can use that doesn't necessarily always translate to price or to money, right? It's more the long-term, the big picture thinking. So if we use the language of price, then we create the perception of cost. If we use the language of value, then we reflect the worth to the buyer. Price might not consider return on investment, where value does focus on the return on investment. And not everything is financial. Remember, we talk about long-term return could be the return of living in a stress-free neighborhood, right? In a safe neighborhood, living in an area where your kids can grow up and get higher level of education, or different things that maybe the parents of those kids did not get when they grew up. Price is fixed and transactional, and value is dynamic and relational. So those are some key differences between those. And then we get, with price, then you become comparative. With value, it's unique and tailored to the client. If you're competing for price, then you become what's called a commodity. If you find ways to differentiate, then you become one of zero, right? You become the only you that is available as an option to the customer, which makes you a lot more appealing, and it makes the customer perceive that, you know, working with you is going to have a different level of value or outcome or return, rather than everybody else who's going to do it the same way and give them the same outcome. So how can we better convey our value? Well, first, it starts with language. I want to share another quote with you, which is written by an author. It's called Flawless Consulting. And he says, Peter Block, transformation is about a shift in language and conversation. And as you know, in exactly what to say, everything is about the words that we use. One of the popular phrases that is leveraged with exactly what to say is, when you change your words, you will change your world. And that's what we're here to do today. I hope to convince you that if you leverage some different language, different words in your communication with your customers, you're going to notice a significant difference in the results of those conversations, whether it's convincing someone to consider you as their expert, their business of choice, their specialist of choice, so that they can make a decision to purchase that product or service from you, or to refer to you someone else, or win an opportunity in a networking event. In any circumstance of conversations that you're in, using the right language could significantly change those outcomes and the opportunities to build more relationships with customers. As I mentioned before, one of the famous quotes that Phil likes to share is, if you change your words, change your world. So I want to tap into this example, which is when you think about getting gas station coffee and getting a Starbucks coffee, what are some quick words that come to mind? So go ahead and type in the chat. If you were to get a Starbucks, what is the language that Starbucks use? When you walk into Starbucks, let's think about the words that they use, also the words that reflect to you, right? There we go, Clayton. So we got venti. So they have a name for each size of a coffee. You got tall, you got grande, you got venti. What do they call their coffee makers? They call them baristas, right? And when you think about going to get a coffee in a gas station or going to get it in Starbucks, you're paying 3-4 times more to get a coffee at a Starbucks than you would at a gas station. By the way, they both serve their purpose. Now, that is arguable, of course, because gas station coffee could be just American coffee. There's only one choice. But coffee, in essence, can be a commodity. But Starbucks found a way to turn coffee into a unique experience, right? You got Wi-Fi. They want you to stay there and hang out. You can have work meetings. You've got some nice music in the background. It's a beautiful logo. It's a nicer brand. You can have a cappuccino, latte, short, tall, with no non-fat, almond milk options, oat milk options. So there's variety. There's choices. There's a lot of different menu options. There's things for non-coffee drinkers. There's pastries. If you also notice, Starbucks is more environmentally conscious, right? So they also have merch. So it is a whole different experience. And they have the luxury of charging more because they've created a world surrounded by not only the words that they use in their culture of how they want to build that experience for the customer, but that the options that they create and then the value that's perceived through their branding, their marketing, their merchandising, across all other things in their business model. So this is a good example of thinking about, I could easily just go into the gas station and get me a cup of coffee, and I could also go to Starbucks. But why do I choose to go to Starbucks? It's because I feel like I'm getting a valued experience going to Starbucks. It actually makes me want to go there rather than, just solve a problem, which is I just need a caffeine boost. So thank you all for playing in the chat. A lot of great answers there. And so that's another example of how we differentiate between what's price and value. Think about the services that you offer, whether it's in accounting, real estate, banking. I think I saw optometrist, in the ear industry, we have some folks there as well. Whatever it is are you a commodity, or do you have a unique, differentiated value proposition that you can create for your customers so that they can see you as someone that's like the Starbucks of what you do, not the gas station coffee of what you do. We got some other folks joining about other other companies that provide better experiences. But there you go. That's the way that they deliver value. I don't think we have a Dutch Bros in Miami. If they do, I definitely got to go check that out. So I want to transition us to one of the 4 cornerstones of conversational excellence. This is a thinking philosophy that goes behind the body of work of exactly what to say, which basically is the worst time to think about the thing that you're going to say is in the moment you're going to say it. One of the reasons why I love this is because it's absolutely true. If you're ready to show up for a client appointment, if you're ready to show up for a networking event, whatever type of critical conversation you're about to have, that's going to have significant changes or impact to the results of that interaction. The worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is going to be in the moment. So doing the work before the work is absolutely critical. What I want to do is I want to layer this thinking philosophy behind an exercise that I want to introduce to you. And many of you have probably done this. this is going to be a new framework for some of you, which is your value proposition. So what is a value proposition? Again, we've got some fantastic participants on the chat, rocking and rolling. So I'd love to hear from you what's your experience with hearing the word of what a value proposition is? Who'd like to share? Let's see what our chat friends say. What is a value proposition to you? Yeah, Renee, it's what sets you apart from the others. Absolutely. Carlos, you got it, my friend. Thanks for joining. Elevator speech. Who are you and how can you help? The value your client experiences from your product or service. The most comprehensive and well explained. There you go. So that's actually the words that you use in the copy of the value proposition. Thank you, Nicholas. Great example. And I'll wait for those roll in, but as we do, I'll share with you the framework. First thing that goes into crafting a value proposition statement. So think about this sentence that you could use over and over and over again in any circumstance to better explain, who you are, what you do, and how your end client benefits from working with you. That's in essence the three questions that you answer with sharing a value proposition statement. So the first thing is what problem do you solve? Right? So you want to make sure that you're clear on sharing the problem that you solve, because that's where people can really see themselves as, are you someone that I can work with? Are you someone that I can hire? Are you someone that I can refer to in case I know someone that has that problem? Right? And you're also tapping into a potential pain point, which draws curiosity. And with curiosity, then you can start really great conversations with those potential customers. Second thing is, what's the unique solution that you provide? First, you talk about what problem you solve, but what makes it unique? What makes you different? And some of you were sharing that in the chat. Talk about differentiation. Sometimes this could be experience. It could be specific hard skills or soft skills that you have, or specific knowledge or education that you have, or again, something that only you have that no one else does. And then what results, outcomes, or benefits the end client gets from working with you. So that is the 4-step framework. And what we're going to do today is I'm actually going to share an example for an accountant of how an accountant would share their value proposition. So for my accounting friends on the line, you're welcome to take a screenshot of this. I'm sure that it's good practice for you to leverage your own. And for those of you who get to see this example, think about how this could inspire you, the words that are being used in this example, and how you could just swap a few words related to your industry, how it could sound like. So imagine that a small business owner is on a call in the Zoom or in-person appointment. An accounting professional is introducing themselves and their value proposition, and they say, Mr. or Mrs. Small Business Owner, navigating financial reports can be overwhelming. My role as your accounting partner is to provide you with proactive insights and help you get timely information so that you can make confident business decisions to help you grow your business. So quickly, as you see this phrase and I would just like you to type one word. What's one word that stood out to you that just kind of made you warm and fuzzy inside? You said, I really love this word. I feel like this word really created value. So let's hear from the chat. What is one word that you saw here that you liked? Nick, so simple, right? Just you, right? We're focusing on the customer rather than saying I, you're saying you. Absolutely. Carlos, proactive, confident. My role, thank you, Daniel. Proactive insights, another great word. So let's break this down, okay? Remember we talked about there's 4 steps. What needs or problems do you solve? What unique solutions do you provide? How do you differentiate? And then what outcome of benefits are you creating? navigating financial reports can be overwhelming. So I was able to say a phraseology of I'm stating the obvious. Small business owners struggle with reading financial reports. Because of this, they have no idea what's going on in their business. Because of that, they're struggling with their cash flow. They're struggling to make confident decisions, which in turn, puts them in a position to potentially fail, right? Or be stressed out, or operate their business blindly, or always having to be stuck working in their business rather than on their business, right? So we're really just trying to press on living inside the pain for some time so that the business owner can see themselves saying, hey, that's me. Yes, I'm always overwhelmed with all these reports. Now, some of us, we're numbers nerds and we know how it works, but not all small business owners are equipped with knowing how to read their numbers. Unique solutions. I'm not just your accountant, I'm your accounting partner, right? So think about, how do you rephrase the way that your role with your customer, how you interact, so you can use some powerful words like, I can be your partner, I am your guide, I'm your coach, whatever word you feel is relevant, helpful, useful, and adds value to the experience and the relationship you're going to have with the client in their journey of whatever financial decision or purchasing decision they're going to have. How do you differentiate? Well, you have unique skills that allow them to get proactive insights, timely information. Unfortunately, some accountants that are here on the line today can attest to this. Accountants do have a bad reputation about providing reporting within the right within a proactive time frame. So maybe one way to differentiate is saying, how most accountants struggle with getting you reports on time? Well, this is what makes me different. I'm going to give you the reports proactively so that you can, we go to the final step, which is so you can make confident business decisions so that you can grow your business. So take a moment, take a screenshot of this. If you need me to go back a slide, I'm happy to do so you can use the example. I do have a couple of friends on the line as well. You should see them also share their value propositions. We have, so that you can see different industry examples. But I'm going to take a moment. If any of you want to give it a stab, look at the left side of the column and see if you can write out your own value proposition. What needs or problems do you solve? What's the unique solution you provide? How do you differentiate? What's the outcome or benefit? We'll wait in the chat. You should see a few other folks share theirs. We got Beth, we got Cheryl already, right on cue, right on time. So Beth is a LinkedIn professional guru, I like to call also one of our exactly what to say guides. And hers is, professionals are often confused about how to use LinkedIn, worried about damaging their reputation, and overwhelmed by the frequent changes on the platform. I work with organizations and individuals to help people become consistent, confident, and certain about their LinkedIn behavior. Masterful value proposition, Beth, and thank you for investing the time to share yours with the team here. We got one for real estate as well with Cheryl, which is, real estate agents often need a lender partner they can trust to ensure buyers are well-educated and ready to move forward in their home buying process. I work with buyers to create a clear strategic financial plan to ensure confident decision-making. I'm highly experienced in helping people navigate high-stakes decisions, and the agents I work with are certain of my performance and ability to be efficient and accurate in the assistance of our clients. Now, here's the thing. I have worked on my value proposition probably 200 times. And every time I'm constantly modifying it, I'm trying to always tweak it. And here's the other thing. Not every single target client that you're going to be talking to is going to be the right audience for that specific value proposition. I recognize that you may offer different types of services for different types of audiences. What I would challenge you to do is think about maybe the 2 or 3 most common situations and create a unique value proposition for each of those, which will help you tremendously. Okay. Seshu, thank you for sharing yours. Headshot portrait sessions can feel awkward or overwhelming. As your personal branding guide, I collaborate with you through a simple 5-step process that will help you appear confident and approachable. Woo! Right on. I love it. I love it. And I love it. It's short and sweet. You hit all of the points. Definitely for everyone else, this would be the one thing I share with you to implement is definitely practice building and crafting your value proposition. All right, Olga, the last one I'll read out loud and then we'll move here. We help entrepreneurs climb the ladder of success by helping them structure their business finances in a way they can perceive their profits and plan for their retirement. We are an innovative accounting firm focused on offering our clients processes, automation with modern technologies, and customized customer service. Olga, sign me up. Whatever it is, send me the payment link. I'm in. I love it, y'all. Thank you so much. Really awesome exercise here. All right. So this is my challenge to you is craft your own value proposition. Go back. You know, one of my favorite things to do nowadays, as we know in the world of AI, is leveraging ChatGPT as your buddy, right? As your thinking partner. Maybe you can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, here's what I got, ChatGPT. Help me craft a value proposition that includes this framework: needs or problems you solve, unique solutions you provide, differentiation or outcome. Here's my first example. Give me 2 or 3 other variations of it. And that tool will tremendously help you make it more concise, make it more clear. And then the next thing is start using it, right? Practice it in conversations. So when should you share your value proposition? So another question for the group, if you want to type in the chat, when would you share your value proposition? In what circumstance would it be appropriate to do this? Well, I'll share with you some of the circumstances that I think are the most impactful. The most obvious one is the beginning of every conversation. And Nick, you're right on. I feel like you got a copy of this PowerPoint. The beginning, the middle, and the end. You could say the end as well. There's several, but one of the ones that I love to re-input my value proposition is especially when a client's giving you a specific objection, because you can remind them, because most of the objections you're going to get are what? Time, budget, let me speak to someone else. You get a couple of things. Let me think about it. But the most common one almost always ends up being price. So here's where you can reinsert your value proposition. Hey, remember, we were talking earlier, my role is to blank, blank, and blank. And here's the result that you get out of it. And it could be an opportunity for you to stay in the game, bring the customer back in and revisit the conversation, maybe address the objections in ways that could lead to a positive outcome. All right. So let's talk about simple swaps. So with exactly what to say, if you've been part of this webinar before, a simple swap is a simple, subtle change that you can add to your language. So it's more of, say this, not that, right? So what are some words that we can swap so that we can create more value in the conversation? So here are some of my favorite ones that I would encourage you all to write down, take a picture. When you're talking to your customer, don't say the word cost. Instead, use the word investment. On the left side, you'll see what word typically will create a perception of price or erode value. And on the right side, you're going to see the words that create value. Don't say the word risky. Someone's asking you something, and say innovative. Maybe you could say something like different. You could say something like interesting, right? So try to have a more positive spin to these words that could be interpreted as costly, expensive, risky, or anything that would erode the value of the product or service you provide. Instead of saying discount, use the word special offer. Sounds quite different, right? Instead of using the word problem, use challenge. Challenge is something that can be overcome. A problem seems something that can't be solved. And again, if we're using the word, it could be interpreted that way. Instead of saying, I think, one of the things that Phil shares is that least influential word in the vocabulary is the word I. But what you can say is, here's what I know. So I think, and here's what I know. What's the difference between this is when you say, well, I think we can get that done, right? Let's say a customer says, here, I'll use a real estate example. When can we, when should we expect our home to close, right? You get that question a lot. I know we have Ines on the chat, so she'll probably share when someone says, when should we expect closing to happen? Or Robin, I know that you're also in real estate. Well, if we say, well, I think we can get it done next week. Well, what you're possibly losing some confidence there, right? Because you're showing tentative language. You're not showing that much certainty. How about if you say, here's what I know. In my experience, situations like these will typically close by the end of next week. So this is how you sustain confidence and trust with your client when you say something like that. So it's a good, simple swap. And if you want to know more about tentative language versus what's called intentional language, one of our Exactly What to Say guides, if you go to exactlywhattosay.com/simple swaps, Rob from our guide group, it has an awesome 2-minute video that helps you leverage a couple of examples. And it's quite phenomenal. I was inspired by that to share it here. Overpriced, premium. Total difference, right? Difference maker. Cheap, rather than say, here's something that's going to be cheap for you, right? Here's an option that might fit within your budget. A lot more personalized. You're not diminishing the value of it. You're just sort of rephrasing it. As you notice, everything's all about the words that you use. Hopefully, another example of what's called tentative language, hopefully, you could say, in my experience instead. All right. So those are some great simple swaps that you can leverage. We will have a recording of this if you want to go back and take a look at what those were. Now, let's talk about exactly what to ask to create value. We talked about exactly what to say to create value. Now, I want to share with you a couple of questions that are my favorite questions to ask in every conversation, so that you can create a little bit more of what Phil Jones likes to call curiosity gap. Because if you stay curious enough, you are able to have better conversations, which leads us to another one of our 4 cornerstones of conversational excellence, which is that curiosity is the fuel to great conversations. So we're going to give you a set of curious questions that you can ask. These are my favorite 4 questions that I would ask almost every conversation, so that you can create value by asking the question itself through curiosity. The first one I love is a very open-ended, is what are you looking to accomplish? What does that do? Let's hear from the chat. I know I've been talking about myself here, but for those of you who have asked the question, hey, what are you looking to accomplish? I'm curious. What are you looking to accomplish? What does that, how does that help you? I'll fill in the space by saying, when I ask it, yeah, first, Beth, you're right on. It's open-ended also, Carlos. It's the specific goal, and it's about them, not about you. Imagine if you started the conversation with say, well, let me tell you about myself and how great I am. And let me tell you about this product and how great it is. Typically, you lose the person in the conversation if you do that. You make it about them, then the customer is going to talk about themselves. And in them doing that, you're able to gather context. And if you gain context, then you're able to be more relatable. You understand their situation. You put yourself in their shoes. It helps you know how to stay curious and ask better, specific questions towards the goal they're trying to accomplish. It gives you a North Star, a compass of where to guide the conversation. And that way, all your questions are intended on building upon that goal, that specific objective that they have. Cheryl, you're absolutely right. You can avoid objections by asking more questions. Kind of a little, one of my favorite Dr. Seuss rhymes that I created, we can call it Dr. Carlos, is if you want to avoid objections, ask more questions, right? It helps with the client's motivation. It hits on their intent, gets the other party to open up more. Typically, when people get to share about themselves, they feel like they can trust you more because they feel like you know them more, right? And Olga, you're right. You're right on. Customers just love to talk about not only their goals, but themselves. So that's one of my favorite questions to always ask. If you could, in the right time of the conversation, hey, as we get started, if you don't mind me asking, what are you looking to accomplish? Easy way to ask that question. Another question that I love, and this is one of the exactly what to say magic words, is how important is it to you? So by asking how important is it to you, and I love using the scale of 1 to 10. Hey, how important is it to you that, you find the right home for your family on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being, well, not much at the moment, we're just kind of getting started, or 10 being, our family is outgrown our current property and we need something bigger, or, we're starting to have kids. And so we want to get into a neighborhood with better schools, right? So now you get the person to open up a little bit more. It's a wonderful, curious question to have touch that button for the client to share with you their level of pain or their level of urgency in wanting to solve the problem. Here you go, Nick. I love that Nick is just like applying immediately everything that we're learning together here. And then we got Hector in the house. So my bro happened to join. It's got a Dan Sullivan question, which is, if we were sitting in a cafe 3 years from now, celebrating our successful endeavor, sorry, that's a wrong announcement there. What needed to have happen? It's a great question to be more forward thinking, create some curiosity. So if we were to sitting together in 3 years from now, we're celebrating all the success that we had in working together. What needed to have happen in order for us to celebrate? Another great question to ask to create curiosity. And one of my favorite ones that we often don't ask enough, maybe because it could be scary to ask, but you know what? I've noticed that I've practiced leveraging this question and people absolutely love it. And they reveal things that I never would have imagined had I not asked it, which is, what would you consider a deal breaker? What that does, it gives you context about previous experience that they've had with someone else that they absolutely did not like whatsoever. So it gives you guardrails around how to operate to have a successful relationship with your customer. And for anyone who's asked this question before, if you have, what are some typical responses you think you've gotten, or what experience have you had in getting that? And for those who haven't, what do you think would be those answers? Yeah, Seshu, I mean, you're absolutely right. Yeah, price is a deal breaker. And there are some steps for you to address that response. And that's where the exactly what to say methodology can be really, really impactful, because it allows you to change perspective. You can find ways to stay in the game. You can find ways to go deeper in the conversation around, things that weren't just related about price. But what they might also say could be, well, if you don't respond with it a timely fashion, then I don't want to work with you. Or if you're not fully giving me all the information that I need so I can make the right decision, that's a deal breaker for me, right? If you give me unrealistic expectations, that's a deal breaker, right? So your customer might give you a whole bunch of different reasons, because people do things for their reasons, not yours. So that's 4 questions that I'll share with you today that are going to help you create more curiosity gap, which will allow you to fill that gap with the value that you can bring to your relationships and to your customers. So Seshu asked the question in the chat is, how do we pace these questions when working with a potential client on the phone or in person? The truth is that the art of the conversation is an art form, right? There's no science to it. We've broken this system down into a little bit of a science behind it, but the best way to really plan for a conversation is before the conversation. What Phil likes to call is doing the work before the work. For those of you who haven't considered doing this, one pro tip that I would give you, something that I do every single time, before any client meeting, either 30 minutes before that meeting if it's virtual, or the morning of, or the day before. I always spend anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes preparing for the appointment. What does that mean is, what potential objections am I going to anticipate? What are open-ended questions that I could ask to get the conversation going? And I like to build just a small guide so that I can stay curious enough and make sure that I touch on the biggest key points that not only serve the conversation, serves the customer, but also prepares me for those situations that I may not be ready for, right? And so that could be a tip that I would give you, Seshu, is consider pre-planning, doing the work before the work, and anticipating what are the questions you could ask and what are the things that the customers could say. Thank you, Renee, for joining. Appreciate it. So a couple of takeaways. Let me just hear from the group. Would love to get just a 1-2 minute chat going. What are some key takeaways for you? What's one thing that you're going to immediately execute, after this webinar that would be useful and helpful to you, you think is going to make a significant difference in your conversations? Let's hear from the folks. Yeah. Seshu's like, I'm good. I did my value proposition. I'm ready to go. Yeah, the simple swaps. Thank you, Vaughn. Deal breaker question. Awesome, Olga. Different points of the value proposition, having different versions of them. That's absolutely good. Eda, I hope I said your name right. Being curious, ask more questions. Nick, putting the beginner's hat on. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Cheryl, the framework. I appreciate it. Deal breaker question. Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Hector. Great. So before you leave, a couple of call to actions for you. First, my good friend, Todd Bookspan, is our certified guide. He is hosting next week Critical Conversations webinar titled How to Win by Noon. And Todd is part of an amazing organization that helps you really work on powerful habits that are going to help you increase productivity and performance. And he's going to share tremendous best practices, systems, and frameworks that he uses with the Exactly What to Say methodology so that you can be more productive and leverage more, get more performance out of the activities that you put in. So make sure you register for that and tune in for it. It's going to be a great one. Another challenge I want to share with you, if you love the Exactly What to Say system, if you want to go deeper in this work, I would strongly challenge you to take out your phone, scan the QR code, and sign up to the 31-day challenge. What this does is you're going to get a daily email for the next 31 days with a small video from Phil or any one of our guides that's going to go into detail around each of the magic words that we have in our system so that you can immediately practice it, use it, and help you level up your conversational skills. So I'm going to leave this on for another 10 seconds so you can go ahead and scan that and sign up to the challenge. All right. If you want to know more about me and you'd love to connect, please give me a follow on Instagram. I also do put some daily content, weekly content that is helpful for getting your sales process and sales conversations improved. And we can also connect on LinkedIn if you prefer to connect that way. I know Beth appreciates that I put the LinkedIn link there, our LinkedIn guru as well. And then what I leave behind here is to remember that when you change your words, you will change your world. I will hang out for the next 5 minutes or so if anyone has any questions that I can answer. Other than that, thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. And I wish you a wonderful December, a wonderful rest of your 2023, and a wonderful weekend. Thank you, James. Thank you, Olga. Appreciate you guys joining. Thank you, Nicholas. Awesome. We got some England folks in the house zooming in. Thank you, Seshu. All right, y'all. I see no questions. So goodbye. Enjoy your weekend. And until next time.